for today. Let me be very, very transparent. I actually teach DEI. I taught it DEI for a couple of universities, and I taught it at the level of, obviously a university level. I taught about criminal justice, and as the fall rolls around, I'm going to be teaching leadership. Or leadership with a focus on DEI, how leaders within organizations should concentrate on DEI. So this is going to be a difficult conversation, right? So this is what I've been planning to teach, what I've been slated to teach come this fall. However, we got to have a conversation about what this is. So I want to be, again, let me just be transparent on what I think about DEI, and in particular when we talk about this, right, how it helps and hurts, in particular, persons like myself, people who are in the Black community, Black men who have traditionally been excluded from these types of initiatives, job opportunities, special assignments. Even if you get the job, just been overlooked. A lot of times, I don't think that it really is intentional. It's just that people tend to hire and want people around them who they feel more comfortable with, people who they may know, their cousins, friend of a cousin's, et cetera, right? So when you look at that, I think that creates a problem within the structure and the system, and that is something that DEI was initially meant to break into. And I agree that DEI should be attracting the best candidates. But when we have things like affirmative action, when we have things like DEI, it just makes more difficult for people who are actually competent to be taken seriously when they get in these positions. That's just a fact of life. I tell the story and I'll tell it again right here. So when I was a police officer, right, got hired in 1995. Not long after that, a few years later, and we take the sergeant's test. You had to be on a job for 4.5 years, 4 years, 6 months before you could take the sergeant's test. I take the sergeant's test, and the first time within the history of our department, there was three African Americans in the top 10, and another one. I think 4 of us were in the top 20 for the sergeant's test. There were rumors and rumblings that we had gotten, or the question was being asked: did we get extra credit? Did we get extra help? Were we studying together? Things along those lines, right? So people just weren't used to seeing this type of thing. And think back, this is the year 2000. I got hired in 95. 4.5 years later is around 2000. Whenever they gave the test. So this is the things that we don't like dealing with. And I had a friend of mine who was a chief now, and we were saying to each other, we don't want the job if we're unqualified. And this is what it hurts, and this is what people really have to come to grips with, and all that. So we want to be in a position and in a place wherein we actually get the job because, number one, we deserve it, and number two, because we can actually do the job, and that's what we're looking for. So before we get into this, there's going to be a lot of criticism and critiques about where we're going with this. So what I'm going to do is play a couple of videos, and then we're going to take a look at what was happening on that day, and then we're going to read through some articles, right? We're going to read through some articles and see that this push about DEI that has come as a result of the assassination attempt is not been something that is going on now, but has been gone through for a little while. So I got something here from TMZ. TMZ is kind of funny. They always give me strikes. So I am going to play it, but I'm going to. This is a former Secret Service agent. I'll put her picture on the screen so we can see it. But we're going to listen to this lady, former Secret Service agent, try to say that it wasn't the lady's fault on this.
There are people on social media that are saying, well, this just shows that you can't really have women protecting the president because they're looking at two people who they say were not necessarily up for the task.
When people make comments like that, you can't change it. They're going to believe what they want to believe. They're going to think and know what they want to think that they know. Not only was I on the president's detail, I was the first African-American female to be on the president's detail. I taught in the training academy, and I taught protection. I taught over 500 agents to become agents, who some of them are serving on those details, both men and women. It is a small agency. It is an extremely difficult agency to pass the test for. And once you go through the training, you still have another year of probation. It's not an easy job. So for those who believe women don't belong there, that's fine. There are a lot that believe women don't belong anywhere but at home, and that's their preference.
What did you see as it played out after the shots were fired? Is this criticism completely unfounded, or what exactly played out? Because even the head of the Secret Service has acknowledged that there were things that need to be improved, things that didn't happen the way they should.
She's about to answer. Listen, this was a mess. This was a mess. There is no way to get around it that this was a mess. From the fumbling of the officers to why the snipers didn't see them, to how they got in there, how the sniper was able to do what he had to do, to the extraction attempts. It was just a mess. And let me say something about training, right? So, all law enforcement needs more training, right? We need more training. That there's no way to say. I think there was a guy, Jacko, he's a former Navy SEAL. Listen, we just need more training. I need to do it once a month. They need to train for stuff like this, have 1, 2, 3 plans of operations. There didn't seem to be a leader. You could hear on the mics, what are we doing? What are we doing? Man, that was just unacceptable. That was just unacceptable. And to have gone through that and to hear that should never be uttered again. No one. Here's the plan. We're doing plan A. We're doing plan B. We're doing plan C. Here's the plans. Run through everything and all that. And you got to know your task, your positions. You're on extraction. You're in the left, right, whatever. You got to plan for that. And I Googled it, couldn't find it, how much training or how often they train, and it seems to be very, very similar to police departments, with its occasional medical training and probably DEI training and a few other simple basic training. But that type of emergency incident extraction of the president, where we're going, how we're going to get there, there shouldn't have been any talking. Incident commander takes control. Here, we're doing plan A. We all know our assignments. Here, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are your posts. Here's what the 1 do. Here's what the 2 does. Here's what the 3 does. And listen, there's been some great philosophers who have said throughout the time, all plans don't survive first contact. Everybody has a plan to get punched in the mouth, all different types of things like that. I think I understand, having been in these situations, that things go awry. But this is the A team, right? This is the SEAL Team 6 of protection. And this was an epic failure. And there's no other way around it. It was just bad. It was embarrassing for them. It was embarrassing for us as a nation. And there was no way that this should have happened. And I get it, the coffers are strapped. How much training can you give? You got to give people, in order to perform training, you have to give somebody time off to get the training. You don't want them to get injured. All this different types of things. And these are the dilemmas that we had in the police department. These are the dilemmas. If I'm not here for my 8 hours, somebody has to fill that 8-hour shift. And if you're going to take somebody off the detail to fill that, to send somebody for training for 8 hours instead of being in shift, somebody has to fill that shift. So this becomes very, very problematic. But we'll continue to listen to this former agent here.
What the agents did, they responded the way they should have. They became the human shield. In case there was still shooting activity, they would have taken the bullet. That's what they did. The president pushed up and got up. That was his choice. But the agent...
Yeah, well, there has been issues with President Trump's lack of... and I gotta keep talking to break this up because I get strikes from TMZ. There has been Yeah, Trump is definitely is a problem when it comes to following directions and all that, right? He's pumping fists and wants his shoes and all that. And there's been other incidents allegedly, when he was, not following details and all that. And by the way, this lady's name is Cheryl Tyler, former Secret Service agent. So, listen, it's really, really bad what happened, but to blame it on them. And that wasn't the issue. We're glad that they huddled around. We're glad that they performed the human shield as they were supposed to do. That wasn't the issue. The issue was, getting the extraction. Where's the car? Is he hurt? Is he injured? Is he ambulatory? Can he move? Do we got to carry him? Right? That should have been figured out within the first 10 seconds, right? Do a quick, you got him on the ground. Sir, are you hurt? Let me do an assessment of your body. Let's check and see. Can you walk? Are you good? Okay, we good? We got a clear path. Other agents are clearing the path. Where's the car? Is the car in position A? Are we ready to go? Okay, on three. When we're gonna go. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. That's what should have happened. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened, and we all saw it.
It's huddled the way they were supposed to huddle.
There are some people who found it curious that last night at the RNC convention, the detail was all male. And just optically, especially, with all the crap on social media, maybe...
Was that an acknowledgement or...
Maybe a better move to have women in that detail. What say you?
I don't play into the optics of political preference. And I will say this. When I was on the detail, there was a female on each shift, maybe by coincidence, because you all don't come on at the same time. You're rotated in and different throughout your career. There were times that I may not have been on the working shift and I was doing something else, probably in advance, and the detail happened to be all male. So you can read into it whatever you want. I can't speak for the Secret Service in what changes they are making or have made. But to say that, they took the women off the detail, I wouldn't agree with that statement.
It certainly did look that way, and she's right. Different things happen at different times and all that kind of stuff. But I can almost guarantee you that I'm 99% certain that they made these changes deliberately. You're working different shifts, move people around, fly people in. You can't have that. Can't have that. And there's the comment section of this has just been blasting. I'm not going to read through them. But you can go over to TMZ and watch that, and you can just see them blasting them. And some of it is misogynist. I'm not going to say it's not. I am not saying that women don't belong in law enforcement or in the Secret Service. But those guys who got to do the extraction, those guys got to have some beef. Those people have to have some beef. Because you got to be able to carry you got to be able to lift, carry your protectee, and that's just the bottom line. That's just the bottom line. I mean, that's just the bottom line. You got to be able to do the job. Let me see here. We're gonna play some videos here. Let's see. Okay, here's one. Here's a short one. DEI. Secret Service DEI, women criticized after the Trump rally. This is just someone that came across. Now this impact. She's got 3.9 million subscribers. Not 17,000 views. So we'll play this video here.
Women are getting blamed for Trump's because DEI? Huh? By now, we all know what happened at the Trump rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday. It's a horrific moment in recent American history that has no place in our politics. But what's so striking is that literally minutes after the occurred, rather than temper their rhetoric or place responsibility for where it squarely belongs, the many MAGA social media users began blaming the entire incident on the fact that there are more women in the Secret Service than there used to be.
I haven't seen that. She's going to say something about Elon Musk. I haven't seen any criticizing or saying that the incident happened because there are more women. I don't think that that's been the narrative. I think the narrative is that these people were number one, just inept. And here's the dilemma of DEI. Are you pushing for competent people? Nothing wrong with competent women doing the job, but are they competent? Are they competent? And the women who are on this task force on this particular day did not seem to be competent. And let's be fairly clear and obvious. Not all the men seemed competent either. So let's just call balls and strikes here. This was a complete mess. But when you got people who can't holster their weapons and their shades are falling off and they're pushing shades and it would just seem to be a problem. It just seemed to be a problem. And this is the critique. This is the criticism. And I think that the detractors, as she's trying to do, but don't paint the picture as if it's not that. They're not saying that the incident happened because there were women on the more women in the force. They're saying there was a definite lack of action, particularly the time of extraction. There are some answers that had to be given to the question: how did this happen? How did that sniper get up there? Where are the other two snipers at Nest? How come they didn't see this guy? What was up with that? And I was watching something last night talking about Graham v. Connor, and this guy was trying to mention Graham v. Connor and this, that, and the other. I completely disagree with that assessment. Completely disagree with the Graham v. Connor assessment. That is that you have to wait for someone to do whatever. I think that is unacceptable, and I don't agree that Graham v. Connor standard would have been violated if, upon seeing that there was a potential threat, to wait in other words, what they're trying to say is that before an officer acts, federal agent, officer, Secret Service member, police officer, corrections officer, agent of the state acts, you have to wait for the incident to be active immediately now. And that is a narrowing of the window. So in other words, let's just imagine this is not on a traffic stop. Let's imagine a police officer in a traffic stop. If you see a gun, officer's looking through the window on a traffic stop. He's looking in. He sees a gun on the center console, and the officer says, "Hey, listen, I see you got a gun there. Don't reach for anything." The guy grabs the gun and then slowly starts to rotate towards the officer. They would have us think that you have to wait until the bullet is being pulled, until it's the muzzle is squarely at me before I can take any type of preventative, defensive action to stop the threat. I completely disagree with that. If you're, and this is what I'm saying about the two snipers, if you are at a rally where this is going on and you see a man hiding up on a roof, the very minimum you have to get the president off the stage. I think we all agree that that's the minimum. But I don't think if he's started looking through his scope and taking aim and all that kind of stuff, I don't see a problem with taking a guy out. I just don't see it. I think you can articulate that here we are at this rally, and before he gets a shot off, I'm going to take preventative action. I just don't see it. I just don't understand, what that is. I don't understand what the problem with that is. So let's get back to this particular lady as she inaccurately defines what the problem was. And even the quote that she has from Elon Musk. So before in charge of being protecting the president, she was guarding a bag of Cheetos. She's talking about Kim Cheadle, who was a Secret Service agent, then went to work for Pepsi and now has been brought back. So it's unfair to say that she just was guarding a bag of Cheetos or only came from the Pepsi organization. So that was that. All right.
Got in on it by attacking the head of the agency, who happens to be a woman. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot we don't know about this event and any alleged security lapses that happened, and both parties are entitled to answers from the Secret Service. But immediately going mask off and cherry-picking one or two images to pin blame on women agents who were risking their lives in the fog of the moment, no different than any of their other colleagues, that's just giving the game away, fellas. Now,
yeah, okay. So it wasn't, but again, again, I'm saying that there was a problem with, I'm questioning whether there was a problem with the training. How much training are they getting? How much stress are they being placed under? Who was the incident commander? Who was giving out directions? You got to have one person giving directions, doing, here's what we're doing, all this. You ought to know your assignments, know your tasks, and get on the top of the president. This, what are we doing? You know, that was just too much. And it wasn't just one or two images. It was straightforward going. So it's one, you got to be able to handle it. You as a person has to be able to handle it from the time that the incident starts to go down, right? It's all fine and good to be, 99% of law enforcement is boredom. Well, I should say 95. It's boredom, right? But it's that 20 to 30 seconds of life-changing, life-altering stress that you have to be prepared for, and they simply were not prepared for it. I would say from the leadership on down, they just were not prepared for it. Snipers, everyone. I know that these guys just feel bad. Everybody's kicking them. They're down. They feel bad. This happened on my watch, man. I can't believe this happened. This, that, and the other. People are calling us incompetent. Why didn't I take that shot? How come I panicked? How come I couldn't find my holster? I know that they're just beating themselves up over this, but this is gonna hopefully make the whole agency better. And they got to answer these questions. I'm gonna watch this when it comes out, but they got to answer these questions.
Now, at the same time, MAGA conservatives taking awful tragedies and immediately politicizing them to badmouth DEI is nothing new. Remember the Baltimore Bridge collapse? Well, what's actually interesting here is it's one of the most prominent times they're turning their vitriol to white women at the center of the story, instead of people of color. It should really be a wake-up call that anyone who doesn't fit
Oh, well, listen, this is I talked about this already. This is the dilemma of being a black man, because I want to be selected because I can do the job. And if I fail at the job, it's not because I'm black, it's because I failed as a person. And if I succeed at the job, it's not because I didn't get the job because of my blackness. I didn't keep the job because of my maleness. I am able to rise and fall based on the merits of who I am. And that's what we want. And these ladies clearly, we're not there 100%. I mean, it's just clear. So that this is bringing up the question. We're just trying to find some answers to the question. And as we'll walk through, this is not the first time. This is not, DEI has been under scrutiny for some time now.
MAGA's vision of a world for and dominated by straight, cisgendered, manly white men can be the scapegoat.
Okay, so again, blasting this woman. This lady is the problem. I'm a woman, and watching them secure safety of President Trump, an epic failure. There is a photo of a female Secret Service hiding behind Trump. DEI equals DIE. There's still some time to delete this video. Complete wokery. This woman is delusional. This is dishonest as usual. Those women agents were downright embarrassing, clueless, had no business protecting the ex-president. Anyone who knows anything about law enforcement can see how they look lost. They did look lost. I was in law enforcement. And there was emergency situations we had to handle. We had to get people out of there. We had to secure kids, get them out of there. We had to secure our own teammates, our own officers, if they were down, get them to the hospital. We got to be able to clear a path. We had to talk about stuff. We had to train for that stuff, right? Yeah. 5'5" woman guarding a 6'3" man. And listen, I'm not over 6 feet. And I would probably, you should be on the perimeter, in the crowd. You should be, doing something else. But the beef. In order to get to the president, you should have to go through 1,000 or 1,200 pounds of pure muscle and beef. I'm not MAGA, but I could tell you that these SS women, Secret Service women, were panicking, and they were pretty short compared to the men. Yeah. I don't know. You can hear a woman screaming right after the shots were fired. What are we doing? What do we do? Confirmed to be. Yeah. I'm not sure we watched the same coverage because those women. Yeah. Listen. It's different. We gotta have this conversation, because we gotta take a look and make sure that we're getting the most qualified people or applicants to do it.
Joining us from the USA is host of...
Yeah, I just wanted to play that. I think that's probably enough about that. But let's finish this off here. So I'm going to read. We can scroll through some stories here, right? So this is that's not what I want to do. Here is an article. Is DEI going away? Here's what experts say. They're looking for the future of DEI. And listen, this article was from June 10th by the Wharton Knowledge at Wharton. And this is a Harvard subsidiary business school. Talks about it. They're committed to DEI. If DEI, we'll read through some of this here. If DEI is not going away, what's next? The roundtable members identified several key themes. Self-identification in the workplace, right, is largely voluntary, and disclosure requires trust. How can companies build trust among employees who fear their information may be used against them or shared with other parties? More company and industry level data can be used to expand DEI initiatives and measure progress, but there's a global challenge in gathering that data because regulations vary from place to place. Firms need counsel, right? So they want to continue to pushing this and make sure that lawyers are involved and all that. Again, let me just say this. This is about what happened, what that we saw. It does not bode well for DEI. Let's just call it like it is. It just doesn't bode well for DEI. It just doesn't. The failure of the DEI industrial complex, how organizations can hold themselves and practitioners they work with accountable for measurably improving outcomes for marginalized populations. This is from December of 2022, way before this incident. Summary: despite the increase in organizations adopting DEI initiatives and the proliferations of DEI firms or practitioners, the big, poorly kept secret is that the majority of these initiatives are less effective than many make them out to be. On one hand, there is a lack of standards, consistency, and accountability among DEI practitioners. On the other, organizations keep asking for and funding interventions that don't work. This phenomenon that purports to end inequity but instead sustains it is at a great cost to marginalized populations is called DEI industrial complex. To end it, the author, a DEI practitioner, provides 4 actions for organizations and DEI practitioners to take. Identify DEI challenges before describing DEI solutions. Find the right specialists. Measure not only inputs but outcomes, and have those doing the work inform the budget for it. So you can read through this article. This is all pretty much free. And this is from the Harvard Business Review. You can't see it here, but this is actually from the Harvard Business Review. This is before it, and so they're noticing a problem with it. Here's from Axios. The backlash is real behind DEI's rise and fall, and this is from the first quarter of 2020 to 2024. Diversity, equity, inclusion was a hot thing in corporate America a few years ago. Not so much. I think that's the end of it now. I think that this experiment has pretty much run its course here. I think that it's run its course. The backlash is real, and I mean in ways that I've never seen before. He says CEOs are literally putting the brakes on DEI work that is running strong since George Floyd's murder in May 2020 pushed businesses into action. Flashback, right? After George Floyd, the chief diversity officer's role was the hottest position in America, says Kevin Clayton, senior vice president, head of social impact. Companies were hiring these positions out of guilt, he says, noting that in 2020 he was pursued by more than a dozen companies. But some CEOs are feeling like they didn't hire well for those roles, bringing on people with civil rights backgrounds instead of more corporate expertise. You're right, because they're not getting the job done. You don't know what it takes to get the job done. That's what the problem is. You're hiring people with civil rights background. We got to make it look good. We got to make sure everybody's included, that people are in positions. But can they do the job? They need expertise. They need competence. State of play. Some businesses cutting back on funding, trimming DEI staff, and even considering pulling back on things like employee resource groups comprised of workers of various races. Employee resource groups. And some are changing programs designed to support women and people of color because of lawsuits. Many have been filed lawsuits over these programs, more than 20 by Miller's America First Legal, and other companies worry about litigation. Comcast expanded a small business grant program called RISE for Representation Investment Strength last year to include entrepreneurs of all backgrounds. It should. It should. Listen, the problem of the past was that, in particular, black people and yes, women were deliberately excluded. So now seems to be in their attempts to be more inclusive, they're deliberately being inclusive. So we have to take the measures to make sure that we are not deliberate. And this is a legitimate fear of mine, that if we scroll back and roll back many of these initiatives and policies, I too am worried about, will I still get the job? Is somebody going to go back to the good old boys club of hiring their cousins, their neighbors, the other guy with the Italian or Irish or English background? I worry about that. It's a concern. I'm not saying that's not a concern. The company's 2020 press release about RISE discussed advancing black businesses, but in 2022, Comcast was sued by the anti-DEI group that alleged the program discriminated on the basis of race. You know, this is the catch-22 that we're all in, right? So now you want to do something to help black people get ahead, and somebody's going to sue. But we were always held back. That's the difference. Right, so the backstory here, right? I kind of fast-forwarded through this. This story, again, is on Axios. The backstory: one reason companies created these programs is there was widespread inequities in corporate America. 1.6% of Fortune 500 CEOs are black, for example. Few women make it to the C-suite despite making up half of the entry-level jobs. Is this because of competence? For black people and for, I don't want the job. I don't want the job if you're just going to give it to me because I'm black. But I don't want to be excluded because I'm black either. This is the dilemma. This is the dichotomy. Let's see. Again, May 5th, before this incident, 2024, DEI is getting a new name. Can it dump the political baggage? Amid growing social and political backlash, American businesses, industry, and employment professionals are quietly scrubbing DEI from the public view, though not necessarily abandoning its practice. As they rebrand programs and hot-button acronyms, they're assessing decades-old anti-discrimination strategies and rewriting policies that once emphasized race and gender to prioritize inclusion for all. That's the way it should be. We don't want to be excluded, right? You almost have to write it. I'm not an English scholar, but almost in the negative of what you want. We just don't want you to be exclusive. That's the way it kind of has to be written, right? Don't necessarily be inclusive, because now you're aiming for quotas and all that kind of stuff. And let me just speak a word about quotas. This is from the Washington Post, obviously. When you do quotas, then that presents the problem that people do not like. So law enforcement has an initiative, 30 by 30, and this is where the head of the Secret Service, Kim Cheadle, has said that she wanted 30% of the force to be, of the Secret Service to be female. And this is where she gets that from, 30 by 30. They want all law enforcement 30% females by that time. So you're going out actively recruiting. But these people have to be competent, and you have to put them in stressful situations, and then you have to train them constantly. Not only every single member of the Secret Service, every single member of law enforcement, every single member of the police and fire and military, and has to be continually trained for that 20-second, 30-second firefight, for the time that those guys and gals have to rush into a building. And when you get in there, you cannot just be there because you're a woman. You cannot just be protecting the president because you're a woman, because it looks good. You cannot be a fighter pilot just because it looks good or they want women. You have to be able to do the job. You have to be able to do the job. And if you can't do it, why are you there? If I can't do it, why was I there? You can't, it's unfair to put these people in those positions. It's unfair to the protectee, it's unfair to the public, and it's unfair to the people who have been put in these positions. It's unfair. You're not doing them any favors. It's stark contrast to 2020 when the murder of George Floyd unleashed a racial movement that prompted companies to double down on policies aiming to increase opportunity for groups that have historically been discriminated. I don't have any problem with that. Just give me the opportunity, and if I fail, I fail. Less than a year after the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action in colleges and universities, a landmark ruling found that race-conscious admissions violated the right to equal treatment of the Constitution. A growing contingent of critics is arguing that DEI creates inequalities of its own. And here I think that this is what they're talking about, where we've seen it. Some conservatives have blamed DEI for a variety of problems, such as the Baltimore bridge collapse and Boeing's safety woes, without providing evidence. Yeah, well, just because you hire more black people or hire more women doesn't mean that they failed because they couldn't do the job. Maybe they just failed because of whatever. So again, you had to be very cautious, and I am very skeptical, very cautious when I always hear this type of stuff, right? Because it just seems like some people just want to go back to the good old boys club. It seems that way. Dozens of anti-DEI bills are being considered by the state legislators across the country. I wonder if this is going to make it worse, and DEI looks poised to become a wedge issue in this year's presidential election. This, again, this was written May 5th, before this incident. He's talking about the lawsuits. To be sure, some companies have successfully fended off challenges. In April, a discrimination lawsuit against Amazon grant program for Black, Latino, Native American contractors was dismissed by a federal court in Texas, though the plaintiffs have appealed. Pfizer and Starbucks have prevailed in court against similar legal attacks, though Pfizer modified the DEI program in question to make it race neutral, according to... It should be race neutral. Just give me the opportunity. When I get hired for a job, when I go in for the interview, just don't use your implicit bias or whatever your grandmother told you. And I don't think this makes it any better. Listen, this, as a black man, I see the difficulty in this. I see it. And many companies have held onto their programs since the court ruled against Harvard and University of North Carolina last June. 6 months after the ruling, the employment law firm Littler Mendelson reported that 91% of 32 executives said the ruling was not less hardened for the prioritization. In fact, 57% they expanded the DEI programs in the last year. So they're not going without a fight. And here's the last article. I'm not going to read it, but DEI is officially dead, and this comes from Forbes. So this is all these different. These are all major newspapers that I read: Washington Post, Axios. What is this one? Harvard Business Review, and another one from Wharton. This is the problem, right? This is a problem. So, and this article talks about Governor Ron DeSantis and what he did. He stopped it. We'll read this one a little bit. For the last few years, it seems that anti-DEI sentiment has gained traction, and old habits have indeed hard to break. The Supreme Court's decision, yada, yada, yada. This chief diversity officer for Virginia, that the whole state, recently stated that DEI is dead. Martin D. Brown, who has been serving chief diversity opportunity inclusion officer for Governor Glenn Youngkin since November 2022, made a bold statement in a speech at a Virginia military institution. In a statement to the Washington Post, Brown asserted it's proven that institutions achieve more with a more diverse and inclusive workforce, which has been documented. I've had to read articles about that. Put myself over here. However, equity has become a trade-off for inclusion. Right. So if the detail, let's just say, was generally 10 men, 10 people, and we got to put 3 women on it. No matter what, we got to put 3 women on that. That would be equity, or some form of equity. That is not a good idea. You got to put the most competent individuals up there. That's what we're going for. They have to be able to do the job. You got to be able to pick the president up or your protectee up and carry him out of there. You got to be able to do it. So then what is the future of DEI? When this question was asked to an audience at a LinkedIn poll, the results garnered some interesting findings. Out of 500 responses, 40% of respondents felt that the future of DEI is less investments in funding in DEI. 25% of respondents indicated there was less focus on race and racism. 19% said that what we're seeing is now the end of DEI as we know it, and 16% felt the DEI would stay the same. Several factors point to a shift in the DEI landscape. I think it's definitely going to change. You can go over to all these different articles: Forbes, Washington Post, Axios, Harvard Business Review. This was not a good look for the Secret Service. There is a dilemma. There's a dilemma that in particular Black Americans have when it comes to this type of thing, and it's really unfortunate that we're in this place. Really unfortunate that we're in this place. So, let me know your thoughts and your opinions. Do you think DEI should stay? Should it go away? What should happen with it? Do you blame the shooting of the president, former president, the violence that occurred against him? Do you blame that on the women that were there, or did you think that there was something wrong? And I think, here's what I actually think, absolutely think, that they just need more training. I think that they need more training. They didn't know what to do. They just were jumbled and panicked. And that was not the time for that panicking to shine forth. You, as a law enforcement officer, you have to take your gun in and out of your holster, in and out of your holster. You have to know where it is, and they should practice the way. If that's what you wear to these different things, you should have a practice suit. You should have a practice suit that you. Here's how I'm getting in my holster, in and out, in and out, in and out, 1,000 times, right? Getting out. There was a time when we had switched to new weapons, right? So we switched to new weapons, and when you switch to new weapons, you got to get new holsters, right? Because every holster is not going to fit. So we switch. And they come with all these different security breaks, so anybody who's walking by just can't pull it out, right? It's got to be rotated and all this kind of stuff to get it out of the holster. And so we had to go home and practice with that, because you don't want to be fumbling trying to get it out, trying to get it out because you didn't practice under stress. It ought to be routine. You're not going to be think about it, right? It ought to be up and out, up and out. It got to be up and out. And so you had to practice to that. And the first time you're struggling. And so, and even too, you got to be able to put it away, right? Okay, because now you got to go hands on. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, this person's down. Let's go cuff them. Put it away and get back up. Back up. So you got to practice that. You have to practice that. And so it didn't seem to me as if she practiced that type of thing all the time under stressful conditions. Timing yourself. How do you stress yourself out? Do some burpees, do some jumping jacks, run in place, high knees, get down, do some bursts, push-ups, tire out your arms, and then put your gun away. Do all this in your practice uniform. Practice suit. That's the way you got to do it every single day, right? Until you get it. Till this is muscle memory, so that you can do it without even thinking about it. And that was an issue that day. That was an issue this day. That was an issue. Not knowing what they're doing, not knowing where they're going. Where's the incident commander? Everybody get off the radio. Here's only 1 or 2 people should be talking on the radio. All right, the snipers, you got them down. Sniper, you guys down. Okay, this is team lead. Whatever the call sign would be. This is team lead. We got the, whatever his name is. The orange one is down. Right, we're picking him up. He's okay. He's ambulatory. Get the cars here, and we're going. When the car's here, I just want to hear that they're ready. Good to go. Okay, next radio transmission. Good to go, sir. Cars in position. Okay, here we go. On 3, we're ready. Right. That should have been the radio traffic. This. I don't know what we're doing. Where we're going. That was bad. 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 But you got to practice that. You got to practice that. You got to practice it. And they need to have refresher training, right? You look at their training schedule, right? It was like 6 months or whatever weeks, then another 13 or 17 weeks of this, that, and the other. That's fine. But you got to practice that in the field. Here's the route we're taking, right? I'm sure that they do this. I'm sure that they do it. Here's the route that we're taking. Here's primary route, here's secondary route, here's tertiary route, here's what we're gonna do, here's your plans, here's your operations, here's where you're gonna be on this day. If things go bad, this is what you gotta do. And you ought to be looking at that board, PowerPoint, whatever they're doing, and saying, okay, things go bad, here's the entrances, exits, here's where the threats are, here's where the potential threats could be coming from, what you're gonna do is shots get fired, here's my responsibilities. Work it out. You gotta do that. As an officer, I did it all the time. When I was a lieutenant, or as a sergeant, I did it all the time. It's my responsibilities for this day. I'm thinking about it because I don't want to be caught with my pants down. I don't want to be caught with my pants down. All right. I made this long enough, 46 minutes. Much love and peace, everyone. Let me know your thoughts, your opinion, and what are your thoughts about DEI? And is this incident, is it overblown? Are we talking about something that we shouldn't be talking about? Let me know your thoughts and opinions.